Aloha, everyone, and welcome back to the program. When the NCAA announced that it would release its findings versus the University of Michigan on a Friday news dump, well, my initial reaction was just, eh. And of course, if your reaction to this video was, well, hell, even just a little bit better, please go ahead, like, subscribe, post a comment, share. You know what we do here. Now, after reading most of the 74 pages, my reaction was, honestly, I have a hard time caring, to be honest with you. Now, did it take too long? Yeah, probably. Is justice delayed really justice denied? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It did actually bring up the memory of seeing Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky on the cover of Time magazine. That was in my old editor's office. And I remember thinking to myself, how did we get here? Where did this whole thing start? Now, of course, I remember how the whole Michigan thing started, and honestly, I still don't care. Now, maybe it was the polarizing insanity of the whole thing. Every critic wanted Jim Harbaugh, the university, and the entire city of Ann Arbor just shot from a cannon. Supporters, like my hair guy, who told me that the NCAA has no proof and that Michigan's lawyers will get the fine down to about $250,000, can seem to admit that, well, one thing, that Connor Stalions is a brilliant tactician and that whatever he did do didn't really matter anyway. That's my favorite, to be honest with you. So what did we learn from the report anyway? Well, first of all, that the NCAA loves the word scheme when it comes to Connor Stalions. In fact, they actually use that word 84 times in the document. But schemes, as it turns out, is actually not the most popular word of choice. Harbaugh, of course, got top billing as he was the head coach, but his name only appears in the document 131 times. Any guesses who was number one? Yeah, of course. At the end of the day, the real star of the show was actually the least qualified member of the staff and the one who, at least I believe, at the end of the day, will benefit least from when all this shit goes down. And that's Connor Stalions, who appears in the document 338 times. Take a bow, my friend. And my guess, that's probably double the number of times that Urban Meyer will bitch about Harbaugh while just ignoring the entire mess that happened down at the Florida Gators. As I said, the report didn't really offer anything new. It did provide some corroborating testimony from an unknown student athlete. Also, they interviewed an intern who worked in the athletic department as well, who I guess could just verify Connor Stalions' involvement in the whole, I don't know, scouting thing. And of course, the football team's policy, or their don't ask, don't tell policy when it comes to, I guess, any source of valuable information. Great job, guys. Nice effort. Where'd it come from? No one seems to care. Now, there were a couple items in the report that I would like to see more information on. It does say that while at Navy, Stalions volunteered as a student coach with the football program and was tasked with deciphering opponent signals, a practice widely referred to as sign stealing. Not much of a revelation as far as what it's called. I just found that a little weird. Now, reporting at the time, as I recall, said that Stalions tried to volunteer with the Navy program, but was quickly shown the door. And the story really kind of died there. And now in the Netflix documentary, Stalions makes it sound like he walked in and was immediately ushered into some important position, which of course quite naturally led to Navy having its most successful 4-year run in program history. Yay. Because no matter what he touches, turns to gold. Now, I understand that's not the point of the NCAA's investigation, but one does have to wonder that if that story is true, was there any improprieties going on at the Naval Academy? I don't know. Maybe it's some of this the NCAA just doesn't want to look into. The other item that left me wanting was the report says that Stalions got involved in an underground community of analysts who would regularly trade information about opponents, such as signals or game plans. Now, if this is true, this does sound like something that the NCAA would want to look into. A wide-ranging underground organization of team employees that may be doing something that violates rules. Sounds kind of important. But then again, the NCAA, if they chose to investigate it, they may not be around long enough to kind of see what happens at the end of it. So, return on investment, probably not so good. So anyway, at the end of the day, who got what? Who won? Who lost? I think the NCAA, in fairness to them, probably got as much as they could get, which was honestly not much. The 10-year no-show clause for Harbaugh, yeah, it sounds impressive, but really, he's never going back to college. He's been trying to get out of the college game for the last couple of years. And as far as the no-show versus for Stalions, like, no one's going to hire him for a collegiate job anyway. So again, that's really kind of toothless. The $20 million fine is not insignificant, but on appeal, which Michigan is going to do, it's likely to come on. It's likely to come down. I mean, really, what else could the organization do? The NCAA is a shell of its former self. And really, the only way it's ever going to survive is off the scraps of the Big Ten and the SEC. Yeah, the NCAA can still play tough guy with the group of 5 teams or whatever the hell they're called, but big-time football and basketball, they're already out the door. And if the NCAA plays nice, maybe the 2 conferences will allow them to run their volleyball tournaments and their soccer tournaments and other shit like that. But that's it. Their time is done. Michigan. Obviously, Michigan's doing just fine. Like I said, the money is not insignificant, but 2 years ago, the program turned this entire sign-stealing thing into an us versus the world mentality that I think, and they're, to their credit, really helped solidify and motivate this team. And if they want to, they can use that same sort of mentality to turn this whole thing into a fundraiser to basically make up for this budget shortfall. Hell, I'm sure my Silas will kick in a few bucks just to help out the aggrieved. Pretty much guarantee that would happen. Head coach Sharon Moore, look, he got suspended for an extra meaningless game. And it's really the scandal, or whatever you want to call it, has done nothing to harm recruiting. He's got the number 1 quarterback this year, the number 1 running back next year. Hell, he's probably in a stronger position today than he was 2 years ago. And most important, if you're a Michigan fan, Michigan got to rally its base, it got to piss off the competition, and it got to pull rank on the NCAA. What more can you ask for? Now, as far as Connor Stalion goes, as I kind of mentioned about it earlier, I think he's the only person at the end of the day that's going to be left empty-handed. Throughout this entire process, I really kept thinking how Stalions was an example of obsession going not just unchecked, but really just encouraged. Now, first of all, give the man credit. He had a dream. He mapped out a plan. He chased it, and he achieved it. So good for him. In that aspect, I gotta tip my hat to him. Connor, you're way more successful than I am. Sad to say. But I also want to be very clear here. When I use the term obsession, I do not mean it in a clinical sense, right? I'm not suggesting that he suffers from any sort of mental health issues. I'm referring more to like a dictionary definition, something closer to preoccupation or a fixation or something. It's just that neither one of those words really seems to fit the description very well. I'm crazy about that girl. I'm kind of obsessed with getting to that next level of the video game or some shit like that. Anyway, I think that really just I think Stalions became too hyper focused on realizing that dream, where the ends really began to justify the means. And in the Netflix document, he does say that he doesn't break the rules. He just walks that fine line to exploit the rule. Yeah, that could sound kind of problematic to the NCAA. And of course, when the story broke, Connor Stalions went from nobody to a celebrity. Name a Michigan connected podcast, and he was on it. Pat McAfee was praising it or singing his praises on national television. He was good for ratings. He was good for business. But once the stories are told, when it's old news, when he's old news, I'm wondering, will his friends still take his calls? Harbaugh got his bag. He left town, took a chosen few with him, and left Stalions behind. Even if Moore wanted to help him out, he can't, at least not publicly. And everyone went out of their way to not know what's going on per the NCAA report. That is not used to, or is not created to protect the rank and file. That's all designed to shield the boss so he can get paid in powder blue and gold. That's it. Now, Stalions, yes, he did get a couple high school gigs, and honestly, that seems more of just like a publicity thing for the high schools than anything else. And really, if that was his payout for being a good soldier and taking all the heat, that was really pennies on the dollar. According to the report, Stalions spent somewhere in the neighborhood of about, $35,000 on the scheme and didn't ask for a single dime in reimbursement from the university. And no, I don't believe he had anything to do with Bryce Underwood going to Michigan. I think Tom Brady's phone number and Dave Portnoy's check goes a lot further in securing a recruit than some low-level employee who gained some notoriety. So I wonder, like when shit really hit the fan, did anyone pull him aside and say, bro, appreciate you. Thank you for your service. Now, here's what's going to happen. 1, shut the hell up. 2, here's the roadmap. 3, you'll be taken care of. It might have happened, but it sure doesn't seem like it. Now, I'm not absolving Connor Stalions for his involvement with this entire mess. His in-person scouting was his creation. It was his baby. He ran the entire show. But it does seem like everyone got paid except for the guy who was mentioned 338 times in the NCAA report. And that just doesn't seem fair. What are your thoughts? Let me know. And of course, like, subscribe, do all the other things as well. That's it I got. We'll see you again next time, my friends. Y'all take care, all right?